All right. Whiskey friends, far and wide. We're live on a thirsty Thursday. I'm Eric, your humble malt muser, with my very special guest, beaming his signal from near Edmonton, Canada. It's John, the Whiskey Neighbor. Great to have you, John. John and I have just been chatting a little bit, and we thought we would get together to have a couple pours with y'all on a Thursday. We're going to, we're going to share a little bit of some of the whiskeys we've had here in 2021 that have really stood out to us. Not necessarily 2021 releases per se, but whiskeys that maybe we discovered for the first time this year. And we got a couple of them. So we'll kind of just chat through that. Would love to hear in the chat what folks are drinking now, and if there's been anything that you've ran into this year. Before we get started, of course, I want to say hello to the early birds in the chat. First in the door, Ben Demon Hunter, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Area, it's Ben. What's up? Hello to Slancha, to Eric and John. Back at you, man. Mr. French coming at us, Duluth, Minnesota. How you doing, Mr. French? Paul in Montreal. Good to see you, Paul. California in the house. Donner Pass Whiskey saying hello. Looking forward to hanging out with you as well. Yeah, this is a rare occasion. We got exclusive access to John the Whiskey Neighbor tonight, so pepper him with your questions, y'all. Chris?
Yeah, I don't get enough. I love the comments. The community keeps coming in, but I don't get on live enough, so thank you for hosting me here. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's great to have you. Chris is here. How you doing? IC86, suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. Good to see you. London, James Morgan. Late night for you, buddy. Thanks for coming in on the late night. Folks saying hi to each other. Who else we got in? IC86 sipping on some Johnny Walker Double Black. I have not had that one. You had that one before, the Double Black, John?
Yeah, I have. Enjoy it, but sometimes for me, it's almost a little extra smoky, which sounds ridiculous because I usually like them burnt and dark. But
yeah,
sometimes even just the regular black is good, but nothing wrong with it.
Good to hear. I've had the regular black, not the double, though. I got to keep my eye out for that. Chris has got some classic Wild Turkey 101 going. Excellent pour. Ben Romick 10 for Donner Pass.
Nice.
Ribs and Drams. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for swinging in. Awesome to have you. So looks like Ben's not far from you, about 2 hours away. You've probably ran into him before, somewhere on a live stream. Good to have you, Ben. Portisquet 8 for Paul. Interesting. I have not had that one. All right. Buffering. Got it. Okay, good to know. Alan, the whiskey friend. He's got the Glenallachie 10 cast strength batch 6 already. Amazing. How do you get this stuff so easily?
Yeah. Alan always drinks an excellent class of whiskey, I have to say. You know, I'm relating to a lot of it. Yeah, I've had Pork Ask Egg. I've had Wild Turkey. No, I haven't had batch 6 of Glenallachie. Thanks for just sharing that. No, I've had batch 3, man.
I don't think its existence has been even acknowledged on North America yet. You're a lucky man, Alan. We'll be interested to hear how that one goes down. Looking nice on the decks is Donner Pass. We got Ontario in the house with Peter White. He's got the Glenallachie 10 batch 3. A lot of Glenallachies going tonight.
Yeah.
Good deal. Andrew Page coming in from Jersey. How you doing, buddy? Yeah. Cheers, man. Good to see you, Ben. Thanks for stopping in. All right. Silverlock, Balachin 10. He's just down the road from me in Chicagoland. Good to see you. And, and we got a Milton Duff in the glass for 24 from the Alexander Murray selection for Andrew Page. All right. We got 14 folks. Yeah, which is great. Glad everybody's got a good pour in hand. Before we kick things off, just a shameless plug for our good friend Whiskey Neighbor. Check out the chat. If you're not subscribed yet, take a hot second, open up another browser. If you're somehow not subscribed to John's channel, he will appreciate the love. And so looking forward to hopefully a few folks joining you, man, and continuing to build the community. So, all right. We got 16 in, which is great. Again, man, so everybody, just for those who just joined, we're going to, John and I are just going to kind of go back and forth here, chat a little bit about some of the whiskeys that we've kind of came into this year that have been real hitters for us. We'll tell you a little bit about what we think of them. And again, they're not exclusively 2021 releases, but nonetheless are whiskeys that we've both had this year. But
yeah,
I've done a lot of talking. Let me hand things over to the neighbor himself and take things away, brother.
You sure? All right.
Sure.
Well, because when we had just hooked up, you were gonna knock off first, but you.
Oh yeah, you're right. I was gonna go first with the pour. Yeah, that's right. My bad. All right, we have a format, y'all. We have a format, and I'm already skipping.
We have a plan.
All right. So for folks who've been hanging on my channel for a while recently, I think I've talked about this one a few times, but we're gonna start with a bourbon. This is a bourbon that has really blown me away so far this year. It is called, it's from a distillery called Rabbit Hole. They are relatively newish. They come out of Louisville, Kentucky. I believe they opened their doors in 2012. 2012. Yep, 2012. And this one in particular is called the Derringer. It's a straight bourbon, so that means at least 2 years old. And it is finished in PX sherry, 46.5% ABV. And it is not chill filtered, which is awesome. So it's checking all the boxes. And I think what's been really interesting about this one for me so far, and John, I'll be interested to hear if you have had any bourbons that are aged or finished in any types of sherry. I wasn't so sure, and I've been kind of timid about the sherry aged bourbons, mostly because bourbon is so sweet already that I'm like, what, a PX sherry bourbon? You know, I'm like, I don't know. But let me tell you, this whiskey absolutely kills it. The balance is like perfect. The PX and the traditional bourbon notes really kind of complement each other. And it's actually turning me around a little bit on this to maybe wanting to try a little bit more bourbons that have been some sherry finishes or something like that. Because like I said, you know, I've been kind of timid on those because it just didn't seem like it would work. But so far I'm standing corrected. I don't know if this is one you can find in Canada right now, but yeah, I would be curious what you think. Are there any that you've ever had that you really enjoyed?
Well, I think it's a phenomenal. Now it really sounds like you might have scripted something because it's interesting you picked that. It wasn't the bottle that I was going to lead off with, but in my area, a couple of guys started a new import business, and they brought in this Boulder Spirits. I don't know if you can get Boulder Spirits where you are.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'll have to take a look.
This is bourbon finished in sherry. And the reason why I had it down here with me is I've had a very similar journey. I've had a couple other kind of uniquely finished bourbons that has some of that stuff, like Opadon is one that does some interesting finishes. And who else? Does Westland? I know they had a peated. Did they have a sherry finished?
Westland does.
Is that American single malt?
Yeah. It's actually a malt.
Right. But at any rate, I'm just connecting with your a little bit of a journey there, right? That when I first had some samples, some guys sent me some samples, which is nice. I didn't know what I would think, and it really tastes good. And I'll join you with a bit of a dram for some sherry finished bourbon. Yeah, really good stuff.
As you can see, I mean, I'm like halfway through this. These were retailing around here in the U.S. around like 65, 70. So it's not cheap, and especially because it doesn't have much age on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming it's of course from the PX, but it's also finished in a toasted oak barrel. So it's like a double barreled finish plus the PX, which is really, really interesting. Do you see a lot of just kind of curious. I mean, I know from what I understand about Canada, it ranges from province to province on like what you can get your hands on. But what's the bourbon selection like for you like in up in Alberta?
Well, I'm fortunate. Across Canada, I would suggest that Alberta has the easiest ways to get imported whiskey into Canada, right? So, as I just mentioned, a couple of guys, you know, they were Park Whiskey Society. We were kind of talking about societies. Who started that, and the guy who started the Edmund Scotch. They got together and said, "Hey, let's create an import company and really lobby to bring in some of these unique bourbons or other whiskeys out of the U.S." and they're able to do that. And I think you can't really do that in most provinces. I really don't want to speak to all the laws, but I know I've got a lot of friends in Ontario, and their liquor control board really is the one place. They don't have any of those private imports that I know. Peter White would know that way more than me, but that's sort of my experience. So I get to see more bourbon, I think, than most Canadians do, which is why like something like this can come out of nowhere in a way and be on all the store shelves in Alberta, and that's fun.
Yeah.
Now, yours was Rabbit Hole, is that right? I've heard about that. But...
Yep, it's Rabbit Hole. And the thing that's interesting about it, they're relatively new in an increasingly crowded space, of course, in the bourbon world. But, all of a sudden, this stuff started showing up everywhere. So I'm in Chicago, and even when I was in Philadelphia, this stuff was starting to become pretty prevalent. They do a rye, they do a bourbon, and then there's this one, which is this PX sherry. They may have something else too, but it's funny because I actually had the opportunity back in 2019 to go do the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and I saw signs for this place. I didn't ultimately go because we were like, oh, we got to go to Buffalo Trace and you got to go to Wild Turkey and all those other ones. But in hindsight, I'm feeling like if I make my way back there, this is going to be one to check out because really, really good stuff. I'm curious about their rye. I'm going to probably check out at least a couple of their releases. But the nose on this, when you think about a PX sherry for Scotch drinkers like us, it's that very kind of almost like strawberry, very sweet. It's very on the sweet side. It's incredible how the bourbon in here almost tames it. It's like it's working really harmoniously, which I can't understand for such a young bourbon. But it's really working on all cylinders. And I think there's a little bit of rye in their mash as well, which is probably holding this up a bit. But yeah, really good stuff. And it makes me, it's just making me eager to try some other sherried ones. Like the one you mentioned, is that from Colorado?
This is Colorado.
Okay.
And cheers if we didn't each other, and also to everyone online. Glad to see you guys out.
Cheers, everyone.
What's unique about this? Yeah, it's Colorado, and if you go on their site, I would say there's kind of layers of uniqueness to this. One, they have a high amount of barley in here. It's about 44% barley. So it's like I know it's crazy, right? And that gives it a bit of a more malt forward for a bourbon. So you got that corn. I mean, it is a bourbon, right? You got 51. I didn't even check. Yeah, I think they were right on 51.
Yeah. Legally, it's got to be at least 51.
Well, no, yeah.
Probably not much more than that. It sounds like.
Yeah. So they're a barely legal bourbon. Lots of barley, and they run it through a single pot still. I think I could be wrong, but I think that's their thing. So that they've got this pot still going on. Their mash bill is really high barley, and then to finish. Now this is Oloroso, so it's a little more syrupy than as you're mentioning the PX, but it still works very well. This is a very tasty bourbon.
That's really interesting. You mentioned the mash bill on that. I wish I knew what the mash was on this. Unfortunately, despite all of the great information they give you on this, they don't tell you that. And that's maybe the only thing I'd be like, it'd be nice if we could know. I'm sure you can find it online. But, you mentioning the high corn or the low corn, and I mean the high barley, which definitely means it's probably very minimal, almost minimum on the corn. That makes sense to me. If you were going to do a sherry finish, it almost kind of goes with what I was saying before, where if it's 80% corn, it's just going to be so sweet and syrupy that it might not work. But it sounds like maybe that's where they were going for there, a little bit at least. So it's got a little bit of a Scotch quality to it, maybe. It
does for sure. But I would, even that 51% corn, it's still got some definite that buttered corn note. I don't want to say buttered corn, but a little bit of that butter, that sweetness, that kind of toffee that you get. It's still here. It's not. This isn't American single malt. It is a bourbon. Yeah.
Right on. Few folks with a couple comments already here. So Peter White says he's not had a sherry finished bourbon yet. this might be one to look out for. The one that John's got right now. Maybe that's something you can find in your area. I don't know if the rabbit hole stuff would make it up there yet, but Ben Demon Hunter seems like he's a big fan. So happy to have 4. He's got 4 samples of the of this Boulder stuff, including the one that you have.
Nice.
Very cool. Looks like Silverlock tried the Derringer at a restaurant in Milwaukee a couple years back. Was decent, went well with barbecue. I could see that. Dribs and Jams. John is the best province for whiskey. Where I live is kind of awful, he says. So
I think he's in Quebec. Jesse is in Quebec. Yeah.
Gotcha. Hello, Jesse. So we got Quebec. We have a Paul here is in Montreal in the chat. I'm sure if he's still here, some more Quebec stuff. Yeah, it does sound like whiskey heaven.
Hey, did you just comment on that Joseph Magnus? Sorry, I just see that in the chat here too.
Oh, sorry. Here it is. Yeah, Donner Pass had a 2-ounce sample of the original Joseph Magnus, which is the Cognac, PX, and Oloroso. Yeah.
Have you had that? I haven't.
I have a bottle. I have not opened it yet. I don't know why. It's so that comes out of Washington, D.C., and I think that might be why. I used to live there. I bought it just before I left, and I'm like, it's not that it's hard to get. It's just haven't got around to it. But, yeah, it has this triple maturation in, as he said, Oloroso, PX, and Cognac. Probably pretty interesting. Is that? I'm not sure if that's one you see up your way or not. But
I've seen a bottle, but now I can't remember if it was at a friend's house, and then you never know where they got the bottle from, or whether it was in the store. Sorry, so I can't say.
Very true. Very true. Alberta is the only province with no government control. Everybody orders online from there. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Whiskey friend, you guys have too many laws over there in the States and Canada. Looks like the UK is the new whiskey Wild West. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, the US is got its share of. I mean, every state has its own liquor rules, and you can hit some places you can ship to, other places you can't. Some places you can ship wine, other places you can't. Some places are government-controlled stores, other places are private. It's just, it's crazy. Everybody's got a reason to maintain the status quo, unfortunately. But, yeah, so.
I can't believe how hard it is. I think what you're saying, too, certain states can ship to others, and then yet other states, I don't know if they have.
That's right.
And that's same here, although we're finally getting better, where I think I get different answers to this, but I believe distilleries can ship to other provinces now. At least I certainly have ordered from Ontario, and they've shipped to me. But then I talked to other distilleries in Ontario. They're like, no, we can't ship outside the province. I'm like, but I think we're finally. Where I'm going with this is, I think we're finally opening up, and I hope that happens across the U.S. too. Like at least within our border, why can't we get a little better at sharing whiskey?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's every state's got its own rules. Here in the U.S., there's, I was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for a while, which is the state of Pennsylvania, very restrictive. It's got a very Quaker founding and Quaker background, so there's a lot of this kind of old rules in place, and it's all government-controlled stores. But Philadelphia is right on the river, and across the river, the Delaware, is New Jersey, which is, again, private. So, if you can't find something at the government store, you just go over to Jersey, and but yeah, there's some really strange laws. So like in the Jack Daniel's distillery, one of the biggest distilleries, it's in a dry county, so you can't actually drink Jack Daniel's at the Jack Daniel's distillery because it's illegal. Now I know there's some talk that they're going to finally loosen that a little bit, but yeah, you can't buy a drink there. It's just absolutely nuts. One of the biggest distilleries in the world. So there you go.
That's wild. It's a good story in a way. I hear that from who's that guy that does a podcast? He's been around forever. I'm just blanking on his name. The biggest guy in whiskey podcast out of the U.S.
Brad Minnick?
No, maybe not the biggest guy then. He's older. It's okay. All I was going to say is he's also in a dry county, and it's hilarious because he's like the voice of whiskey for me, and then he's like, well, but my county's dry or whatever. I was like, oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a real thing. Yeah, a lot of places, particularly in the southern United States, there's a lot of places that have counties that you can't buy liquor in at all. So it's pretty wild. Looks like we got another friend from Edmonton, Skippy Van. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. And looks like we got a good chat going here. We got 20 folks in, which is a lot of fun, man. Welcome.
Well, thanks. Yeah, Mark Gillespie. That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Mark Gillespie. Gotcha.
Yeah.
He's in a dry county, huh?
Well, he says it anyways. Like he often says, "Yeah, I'm dry where I am." So yeah.
That's crazy, man. Jesus. Yeah. Thankfully, here in the U.S., there are some places that are very liberal about the liquor stuff. California is like the best place for prices. Like I lived in Washington D.C. for a while, and D.C. very international city, so it's quite expensive. Bottle of Ardbeg Ugadal is $109 US, and then you go to these online stores in California, and it's like $55 a bottle, and you're like, what? And you just have it shipped. Like, Christ, how many times the FedEx driver showed up at my door in DC, packages from California. It's like, oh man. Yeah, it's quite wild.
You can do it. That's fantastic. I know. As we all do, we follow everybody on Instagram, whatever. And sometimes I'm like, stop posting pictures of the prices at Costco. I don't know where you are at bottles that are like a third or a quarter of the price that I'm going to pay. Just stop. Unless you're going to send them to me, like I'm now hurting.
Yeah, I totally hear you. So just to wrap up on this rabbit hole, I've been sipping this while we've been chatting, and I have to tell you, for what is likely a younger whiskey, the body on this is just incredible. It's very well balanced all the way through. The finish, it's like the most harmonious blend of kind of caramel, light brown sugar, raisins from the sherry. Just great finish. It's not the longest, but it's quite tasty. I'm super impressed with this. For folks in the U.S. who are into sherried scotches in particular and want to try a sherried bourbon, this Rabbit Hole Derringer is one of the better ones I've ever had.
Fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely one of the things I've enjoyed the most that I've tried this year.
I'll just say for anyone in my market in Alberta anyways, obviously it's from Colorado. It's got to be available in a few states down there. This is a little more aggressive than I'm hearing from Rabbit Hole, but it's got some really nice, that chewy, raisiny sherry notes that then balance with some of that butteriness and leaves me a bit with that chocolate husky finish that I get on some very heavily sherried scotches. So nice. I can't say this is like coatingly smooth. Instead, it's a little aggressive, but it's aggressive in the way that I like it anyway. So.
Yeah, I wonder if that high barley in that has got me really intrigued. I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled for that. That sounds like a good one.
Right on. And then you had a Scotch, I think, right? Second bottle.
I do have a Scotch. So this one probably be a little more familiar with folks, but I really, in the crowded world of cask strength sherry whiskeys, cask strength scotches in general,
no way.
This year I finally pulled the trigger on a bottle of this, and I have to tell you, I think it is probably the best cask strength sherry, like full sherry maturation that I've ever had, and it is this one, which is the Tamdu batch strength. This is particularly batch number 5, which came out earlier this year. I'm not even sure where to start with this. You have your Aberlour Abunaz, which are quite good.
Yeah.
There's more than one. I'm trying to think of other big cask strength sherries. There's the cask strength Glendronach. There's the Macallan Classic Cut. All of this. This stuff, man, let me tell you, bottle of this is in that about $90 range USD, so competitive with the Aberlour prices.
Yep.
But this has a much deeper and darker notes than, I think Abunaz is the Aberlour Abunaz is the one I would compare it to most likely. Yep. It just has a depth and a complexity and it's not as overly sweet as the Abunaz. I feel like it's much more balanced. I really think this is probably the best full sherried whiskey I've ever had. And that's, cask strength. We're not talking about, your high age statement Parliaments or Allardyce or something, but for about $90, man, this has just blown my mind. I've been on the hunt for another bottle since I got this. I've also been looking for some of the other batches because it's great. And it's from a distillery that, frankly, doesn't get a lot of attention. I mean, there's, great presentation, though, by the way. Their bottle looks awesome. Tamdu, I can't say enough about it. I'm not sure if this is one you see up your way or not, but I'm going to have a little bit of it myself right now just because
I can't. That's a good idea. That much praise, you better have a little sip of that. And do you have a backup bottle, or you haven't found one yet?
I haven't found a backup of the batch 5 yet, but okay. I did manage to find a batch 3.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, this one in particular is bottled so it's non-chill filtered, which is fantastic. Yep. This one is at, I can hardly read that, 59.8% ABV, which is perfect.
Perfect. I like it. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Just perfect. Have you had the Tamdu cast strength before?
Well, Eric, you're probably, if you looked at the screen, you're like, I'm just saying hello to this bottle, and John's laughing, right? Like I'm sure you saw that, because we did not coordinate this, and I'm going to grab my camera just to prove. We said we'll bring 2 bottles, right? I brought a few more. So this is my simple deck. I've only got a couple bottles here. We did not talk about what we're bringing.
We did not.
We did not. And I brought, as one of the 2 bottles that I have been so impressed with this year, batch 5 Tamdu. Like, seriously. That's why I was laughing. I was like, no way.
Well, there you go. If this isn't a ringing endorsement for the Tamdu batch strength, I don't know what is.
Exactly. I think we need to share this moment anyways with Tamdu and invite them to send us some love in the form of some bottles. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure. For a
I'm going to join you with the drama of this because
let's do it.
Love this stuff too. I really do. I'm
going to do a little impromptu tasting of it. Yeah, this is some next level stuff. I mean, there are a lot of good cast strength whiskeys out there, and a lot of them that have, are half sherry or quarter sherry. But as far as the full on sherry bomb goes, I don't know if this one's beatable in that cast strength category. I really do. I think this has got so much going on. I'm quite excited. Oh, it's natural color too. There you go. They say it all right here on the box, which is fantastic.
Yep, as it should be, right? Non-chill filtered, natural color. And I definitely have grown into my love. I've always kind of enjoyed them, but now I love cast strength. And I'll proof them down. Certain things are going on, like depending on the evening. But I really love it when they show up like this, full strength. I'll take smaller sips, but they just wrap up your palate so nice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Well, we're gonna just do a little tasting here, I guess.
Sure.
Same thing. John, I mean, maybe we were, sending each other signals, but how's the nose on this for you?
Oh, man, actually, I will say, I was just talking about cast strength and how, I'll proof it down and get to where I want. I am amazed at how I can lean in. It is rich. It is strong. It is thick. I get that range from that dark chocolate, but into a deep kind of almost a prune, like something leathery. Like I really get that, but I don't get a huge alcohol bloom. Of course it's there. It's 59%. But I have to say for my nose even, it's like, this is a little softer than I expect. Not soft, but just, it didn't wipe me out. I can get all those notes. What are you getting on the nose? Yeah,
I'm with you on that. I basically agree. I'd be curious. So you mentioned the alcohol, and like I don't really get it on this either. What I do get though is kind of like a zesty citrus note.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a little bit in the back, but it's almost like a very sharp lemon, or maybe even like some type of orange. But it is.
I'm a little closer to like I get zest on there, a little closer to an orange than
like an orange rind maybe.
Yeah. Like I've made an old fashioned and I've pushed it on the edge or something, right? You get that. Yeah. Definitely.
And then there's just a lot of just there's a freshness to this, despite it being, I think, like I was mentioning, in comparison to something like the Aberlour or Abuna, which I think is also very good, but I get a little bit more sweetness, a little bit more like fresh, sweet fruit. This is fresh, but the fruit notes are darker, which I'm not quite understanding how that works. But, obviously they're not dried fruit. This hasn't oxidized that much, but it's like, there's...
I get some dark fruit on it, though. I do. Yeah. Like that interplay between a really dark, whatever that is, a really dark being cherry or something on the edge, it kind of pushes into that chocolate. Like that edge, I'm still getting dark stuff on here.
You're 100% right. Yeah, Big Cherry, you nailed it. Great stuff. Well,
Lancha, to your health, my friend.
Lunch, back at you.
Hey, for anybody in my area, I know, yeah.
God damn. It's like just when you think it's going to be a little too hot, I get this nice wave of like, it's a bit nutty, it's a bit chocolatey, and it's a bit like berries, like blackberries or something that just overrides that heat and drives you into a nice, I get a lot of like chocolate, again, a little bit of that citric note that's almost giving it like a borderline saltiness. I don't know. It is just phenomenal. I think the only thing that I would take away from this is like, it'd be nice if the finish was a little longer, the development was a little longer. Like it does, it's a little bit of a shorter event than maybe you'd want. But again, it's not age statement, but I mean, that is very minor with this.
Hard for me to knock it too. It's on track to be probably the best Scotch I've had this year, but we're only halfway through the year, so there's lots of time for other Scotch to show it up. But beautiful stuff. You had mentioned price for it somewhere around $90 US, somewhere in that range. I see some people in the chat saying Total Wine had it for, what was it, 98 or 89? I can't remember now. I missed it now.
Yeah,
it's 98. But I just wanted to say, just to anybody in my area, I know where this sits on the shelf, and it's a downtown liquor store in downtown Edmonton for $80 Canadian. So that's like, what is that, 65 something?
Yeah, geez.
I know. It's like, it's practically free. So, if you're in that area, you got to go out and get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm going to be hopping on the next plane to Edmonton and buying myself a case of this stuff.
Yeah, I can't explain pricing, but every now and then, something like that. Like, what? Like, what's for that? Yeah,
definitely. What a great dram. Have you had any of the other batches of this?
I have not. Nope. And I also had, since cracking this, because it's amazing, have driven around, looked around, and I can't find any of the other batches still on the shelves. Because now, when you light up something like this, I'd pay a bit more just to be able to say what was that batch variation like, what did 3 compare like to 5 or whatnot. But I haven't been able to find one. So
yeah. Every once in a while, I'll stumble across one sitting on a shelf somewhere, but for the most part, nah. I mean, they're not. This isn't even that easy to find. I mean, like I was saying, it's not like it's a rare whiskey in the U.S. Normally, if you see a Tamdhu, it's the 10 or the 15. But every once in a while, you'll come across this sitting somewhere. And in fact, just for continuity's sake, I'm going to do a little water on this. I'll be curious to see. I haven't actually had a dram of this in a couple weeks. I'm going to put like 3 drops on here and see what happens. Have you done this one with water?
I have. I have. I walked through a comparison of this, and then I had a Glengoyne cask strength sherry, and I had Old Perth, which is a blended malt cask strength sherry, and I kind of walked through the 3 of them. And I mean, I'd already talked about this one, but in that 3 comparison, this one continued to shine as my favorite anyways.
Yeah. I've actually not had that Glengoyne cask strength. Would you recommend it?
But I do. I like it, and probably more than what I've seen or read online. Got not beat up, but didn't get a lot of love. But it was a great price again in my area, and I thought, well, it's cask strength sherry Scotch. How bad can it be? And right. I like it actually quite a bit. Like I on those 3, that's just a tiny sample, but I liked it more than the Old Perth, and not as much as the Tamdhu, but it still had enough character. Yeah.
That's good to know. Glengoyne is one of those distilleries that is kind of all over the board for me. I didn't like their 10. I liked the 12. I liked the 15. I thought the 18 was really underwhelming. I've had a sample of the 21, which I thought was okay, but I found them all to be kind of thin. And then I have the 25, which is just like incredible, and the teapot dram, which is also incredible. But I've not had that cask strength, so I got to try that one of these days.
I haven't had the teapot or the 25. I've kind of had samples of the range you mentioned, and it's pretty similar. You said you like the 12 but not the 10, right? Is that?
Yeah, the 12 I thought was much better than the 10.
Yep. A similar experience. But the cask strength, it actually seemed a bit young. Like it was a little bit rough, but the flavor profile was a little sweeter than this one for me. Like a little toward berry, I know you said blackberry. I get that. I totally do. A little more strawberry, like that kind of sweeter berry.
Yeah.
But malty, and I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. This, man. So with the couple drops of water, there is, I'm assuming you have grape soda in Canada. You ever had a grape soda before? I'm getting a grape soda note on this that I don't think I've ever noticed before. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying it. That is, yeah. And then again, there's this like nice vanilla, like vanilla bean kind of thing. Berries. Cinnamon.
Interesting you mentioned vanilla bean, because now I'm getting that, Madagascar type vanilla, like that scraped out kind of fresh vanilla going on. Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Beautiful dram. And I can't believe, that's why I had to show you the video to these people. Like I only brought up a few. It was completely unplanned, and I think that just says a lot for the character of this dram.
Yeah. Yeah, we did not discuss what whiskeys we were going to talk about tonight. So yeah, just to re-emphasize what he just said, the fact that we literally both had the Tamdhu batch 5 cask strength ready to go. I hope that our endorsement means something to y'all. If you like a big sherry bomb, try and get your hands on this. This is quite a dram.
Hey, I would want to share the bourbon I was going to intend to share.
Do it.
I called up the Boulder just because it resonated with your rabbit hole. I just felt that idea of a bourbon finished. This is Oloroso, not PX, but I wanted to share a bourbon. I don't know if you've had it. It's from Texas. It's also very young, but just for straight bourbon, not finished or anything. Have you had this Still Austin?
I have not. No.
This is 49.2%. I'm gonna change my Glencairn out here. And it has to be young, because even though it's straight, but it says at the back, it just says aged at least 2 years. So you can go younger if you indicate the year, right? So it's 2 years.
Yeah, that's correct.
Why would you say aged 2 years if it's aged 4 years or anything, right? So it's got to be that kind of young.
Right. And also with U.S. bourbon laws, in order to call it straight, it has to be 2 years. So it's kind of interesting that they say 2 years again on the back when straight implies that it's 2 years. That's interesting.
Yeah. Help me out here, because there's one that gets misquoted a lot online, at least when I dug around and I went into some legal stuff, but I always forget. Bottle and Bond always gets quoted quickly, very quickly. Oh, it's 4 years, one distiller, one run, 50%, and those kinds of things. But I'm pretty sure if they say on the back of that, if they can have younger than 4 years. Have you checked that out?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. I don't think so. I think a bottled and bond whiskey has to be 4.
See, that's we should find that out. Maybe crowdsource it to the people.
Yeah.
Because when I first that's how it's always said. As I just said, right? 50%. and under one brewing run. That's another thing that some people miss. It's got to be one brewing run. It's got to be 4 years and all that kind of stuff under the supervision of one brewmaster or master distiller or whatever the word is. But then I was positive I saw in a legal type document that they could declare it younger and it could still be bottled and bond.
You know, I don't know. Hive Whiskey Mind, if you all want to jump in on this in the chat, do let us know. I think so. So according to the Bottled and Bond Act, this is what it says.
Yes,
but I don't know if maybe this has changed or something.
No,
it says bottled and bond whiskey must be the product of one distillation season, one distillery, and one distiller. It must be under a bonded warehouse of U.S. government supervision for at least 4 years and bottled at 100 U.S. proof or 50% alcohol by volume. And so it must identify. And it must identify
some hack sites because that sounds like you're reading the correct site.
Well, if you consider Wikipedia the correct way, I can take a look at their citation here, but the citation is the legal U.S. legal.com Bottled and Bond Act. So yeah, I think it has to be one distillation season, one distiller, one distillery, federal bonded warehouse for aging under U.S. government supervision for no less than 4 years, and it must identify the distillery by a number where it is distilled if it's different than where it's bottled. So there you go.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. I think
that settles it.
That sounds settled to me. And I think someone was saying goodnight and we might have missed it. Did Alan go?
It was Alan the Whiskey Friend.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for stopping by. If he's still here, if he's gone, hope he's had a good night.
I think he does. He's got the new Glenallachie, so he's probably quite a busy guy with that. Good to see you, Alan.
So this bourbon is I'm rather impressed with some of the bourbon I've been getting out of Texas lately. There was another one. I'm a blank. But anyways, this young, 2 years, is still really a wonderful kind of spicy. This is a drier bourbon. It's not. This isn't a fruit forward. It's spice and oak and wood, like that kind of stuff. But it is lovely. I highly recommend if you see this on a shelf to give it a try.
And it's called Still Austin Whiskey. Is that out of Austin, Texas, I'm assuming?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a local artist. But it's phenomenal. But definitely drier and that kind of, there's lots of different ways bourbon can take us. And I like all of them. But but just so you know, like this is not that bright, ripe, like maraschino cherry or like a bright, that kind of fruity. This is way more dry and oaky, little bit and not like cracked pepper spice, but kind of that cinnamon malt spice a little bit. But it is done really, really well.
Really interesting. Yeah, man, this is so cool. Thank you for sharing this. I've never heard of it. Texas has been a place of a lot of whiskey as of late. For the last couple, 10 years or so. That's around $45 here US, which is cool. I'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Nice. Yeah. Solid bourbon. That's the one that also caught me a bit by surprise. But I will say another Canadian guy turned me on to it. Mark Whiskey Whistle is out of Winnipeg or Korea, depending on where he's living at the moment. And I saw him kind of praising it, and I thought, him and I are similar palates. So I went out and got it and fell in love with it.
So you found that on the shelf in Edmonton, huh?
Yeah. I didn't get it ordered or shipped in. It was brought in. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting, man. I was thinking about for all the difficult, for all the whiskeys that sometimes like, I have this conversation with Foodquig a lot where it's like, we swap samples usually twice a year, and he sends me all sorts of Canadian stuff because much like the bourbon issue for y'all up there, where you can't get your hands on a lot of the bourbons, like we can't get our hands on barely any good Canadian whiskey. Like you go to a U.S. liquor store, you got your 48 flavors of Crown Royal, And then you have your Canadian Club, you have your Yukon Jack, which isn't even a whiskey, Seagram 7, maybe you run into a Pike Creek 10, and like this is kind of it. Like there's just not that many. And so it's interesting that of all the bourbons you would run into, it's this small time one,
Yeah, I know.
It's not exactly like a huge whiskey. So that's really kind of interesting.
I just want to resonate with your Canadian issue. I mean, not an issue, but I, because I have lots of people are watching me out of the U.S., right? And
Yep.
I try to promote good Canadian as well. I love Canadian whiskey, and so they're always like, hey, can you help me buy this, whatever. So I usually ask kind of generally where they are, and I'll look for a big store like a Total Wine or something, like something that I can kind of search, and I'll go through like 14 pages of what you just said, Crown Royal or whatever, and I'm like, actually, you can't get a boy. No, like how do you say that nicely? Like,
yeah.
like just don't, because it's gonna put you off when there are actually some really decent Canadian whiskeys.
Oh, 100%, man. I've been really lucky, as I mentioned. So, like, Food Quick recently sent me a box of samples with a bunch of Macalones and Shelter Points and some 40 Creek and some of the JP Weisers. I mean, like we can get the JP Weisers. I think the best one I've ever best in terms of age has been the 18. That's every once in a while you'll stumble across a JP Weisers 18. Yeah. But like again, there's just not that much, and he's got these like JP Weisers 23-year-old cast strengths and JP Weisers finished in this, and you're like, what? Yeah, it's really, I don't understand it. I mean, you'd think it's in our mutual self-interest for everybody to let's get some of our stuff up your way and some of your stuff this way, but maybe there's just not a market. I don't know. Maybe it's it's us whiskey heads who are looking for it, not anybody else, right?
Couple comments worth jumping on here. One, just because I needed to get a bit of my memory validated. Donner mentioned that it's the if you don't have an age stamp on straight whiskey, it might be. I mean, he's saying it, and I think this is maybe what I read, that it has to be 4 years as well, but it can be as young as 2, and that's why they've said straight on the front, but they've said 2 on the back.
I see. Okay, that's really helpful, Donner. Thank you. That's an interesting. Yeah, Leo agrees. Okay, that's an interesting.
So that must be what I was reading, because I was like, no, I read something that it's 4 unless stated otherwise. So I like that. Thank you for correcting us, guys, gentlemen.
Yeah, that's really good to know. I appreciate that, you guys. So Leo's still on a cast strength last year, and it flew off the shelves.
Oh yeah. I would hunt that down. This is I miss no slouch. It's 49, 49.2. It's got a. It's not like 42 or 40 or something. That's nice, but cast strength.
That's a nice ABV, man. I mean, that's what you want. Peter White says it's all over Alberta. That's really good to know. Is this true?
Yes, and what's true about this is. Crown Royal releases like a huge variety, but not very great whiskey in Canada. And then they release that same not really great as what I've seen when I go on to Total Wine and look through their lists, not great whiskey, but they do some pretty unique stuff. Like an example is a person, actually a guy from Texas, sent me a sample of a Crown Royal 16-year-old rye that I would, again, hunt down up here. They don't release it in Canada, but they release it down south, and it is an excellent rye, like really a quality dram. Yeah.
16 years old, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And really good. But why? Like it's made here, and they don't sell it here. So there's a few of those examples. Yeah.
That's odd. I mean, right. I mean, if you go to a liquor store in the U.S., there's the Crown Royal section is you got your Crown Royal Caramel, your Crown Royal Coffee, your Crown Royal Apple, Peach,
exactly,
Gasoline, pizza flavor, whatever. I mean, they got a flavored Crown Royal for everything, and it's like I don't even look at them. I'm just like I'm not gonna want. There's a couple there's like an XR Rare, like I've seen, but there's been nothing that I've ever thought was like a big, like a must have. I know there was like a little hype around that Harvest Rye. because Whiskey Bible guy said it was so good. You see that every once in a while, but like, yeah, no, I've never seen a 16-year, but that's fascinating that you don't find that in Canada.
Yeah.
Man, you can't go anywhere here without running into Crown Royal.
Yeah. Well, okay. And you can't go anywhere here without running into Crown Royal either. But some of those unique Royal release, like some of the special releases, they choose only to send on an export. Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating, man. I'd love to learn out what, who's behind all these choices. Why do they do it? I'm assuming they're looking at some type of economic data. It reminds me of like you see things like a Highland Park 12 or a Laphroaig 10. If you get it from the UK, it's only 40% ABV. But when it's here in North America, it's 43%.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
What? But why release it at 40? And there's a couple of young guys I'm watching out of Australia right now, and they get stuff that's still called whiskey that's 35%. And like some of the stuff that we see on our shelf, some bourbons, I can't remember now. They were going through a couple of bottles, like Buffalo Trace or something might come out at 35. Yeah. Don't quote me, but below 40. I'm like, what? Like, it's weak enough at 40. It's 45 here. I've heard that it's 40 in the UK, and it's like 37 or something like that in Australia. I'm like, why? Like,
dude, I'm not kidding you, man. Glenmorangie 10 is 40% in the UK. Laphroaig 10 is 40%. Highland Park 12 is 40%. I mean, the difference between a 40% and a 43% is huge. I mean, that is huge. That would change a whiskey, in my opinion. I mean, if it was 55 or 60, it's like, obviously there's a difference, but not nearly as much. 40, that extra 3% for, I guess, just for the North American market that's got to be game changing. I've never had a Highland Park or a Highland Park 12, 40%, but I'm like, a Laphroaig 10, 40%. It's like, what? No. How could you do this in the place where you make it, of all places? But I guess that's how it is. So it's strange how all that works. Paul can't wait for the Pike Creek 15 Cabernet Sauvignon. Wow, that sounds good. And we got 18 folks in still, which is awesome. Hope everyone's having a good time. This has been great. We are just hanging here, sharing a couple of our whiskeys that we've enjoyed over the 2021 so far. And if you've yet to, take a second and smash that subscription button. Would love to have you join me on my channel. And of course, if you've not subscribed to John the Whiskey Neighbor, get on it, folks. Show John.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, we are having fun out here. It's been great, and so many have stayed with us the entire hour. Yeah, and great awesome recommendations in here, especially the Crown Royal Pizza. Thanks, Skippy. That's a good idea.
Crown Royal. I mean, why not, right? They got something for everybody else. Chris Beaton's in the house. Great to see you, Chris. Awesome to have you here. Glengoyne 10 is 43 here and also 40 in the UK.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. Yeah. Why not, right? They probably got, Lord knows they got a flavor for everything.
Yeah. Well, where are you right now?
So Donner Pest said, yeah, they put U.S. bourbon in totes to send to Australia, and they proof it down and bottle it there at below 40%. Forgot about that. So they have a different law there, and so they're just taking advantage of it, huh?
Yeah, and like, come on, like that's a very different flavor profile when you're pouring a whiskey and it's like 37% or like that's crazy, and especially so far from, because I really felt it was like Buffalo Trace. So I know it's a very generic, very classic bourbon profile, but it's normally 45%, and if you're getting it at 37, like that's way lower. Like that's
yeah. That's crazy. So Andrew Page here saying he got a 40% Laphroaig 10 from a Drinks by the Dram advent calendar. Was disappointed since they opened the bottle already. But then guy got interested and compared it to the proofs. The 43 is so much better. Oh, I can only imagine. That's a really great point. Yeah, I bet it's, I would love to try it sometime just for the hell of it, but that's got to be totally true. I mean, that difference is huge. IC86 raising a glass to Chris Beaton, and Mike Myers in the house. He's never seen John live before. Hey, John. Good to see you, Mike. Great to have Mike.
Yeah, good to see you. I know. I don't I don't do enough lives, and this has been a ton of fun. So we'll have to figure out how to do more. Hey, just a question. We've been talking proof in different markets, but that Laphroaig 10 has tweaked something for me because there's a bottle on the shelf that I haven't brought back yet, but it's finally in my market, and that's that Laphroaig 10 cherry cask finish. Have you had it?
I have. In fact, I have a bottle right behind me. Let me just double check with the. It's 48% here. Yeah, it is. I did a live uncorking of it. What is the overall takeaway on this? You know, I was very, very excited for this to come out. So in a way, I didn't think it could actually ever meet the hype because, like, how has Laphroaig went for so long without a sherried, just a sherried whiskey in their lineup? I don't know. I mean, I know the Triplewood has some sherry, but it's good. It's a little pricey. So this bottle's running about $90 here in the US. So that's, quite a significant higher price than the regular 10. It's higher than the Triplewood. It's higher than the 10 cast strength, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
The finish on this, I believe, is up to 15 months of sherry, so it's not fully. But I would say all in all, it's a good whiskey. It's, 3.5, 3.75 maybe. The cost is a little prohibitive. Obviously, you're going to want to get your hands on this because it's a sherry Laphroaig. I mean, and I commend them for the 48% ABV, which I think was really great. Like they could have went, 43%, or in the UK, 40%.
Yeah,
I hate to see it in the
UK. No, 48 is where it's at for sure.
He liked it even more than Telix and I did. Yeah, Telix and I liked it, but we weren't blown away. But yeah, Peter White's a big fan of it too. That's awesome.
Well, it sounds, and even what you were saying, sounds like a good whiskey, but sometimes, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely price conscious. I buy all my bottles. No one's buying for paying my whiskey. I don't know why can't get that out right, but
I buy all my own stuff too.
I totally watch price, and that doesn't mean I don't reach for a higher bottle around there and all that, but especially if it's more than that cast strength, because that cast strength 10 is phenomenal. That's a beautiful bottle, so good Laphroaig. It's an awesome. So to reach past it, right? So you're looking at the row of Laphroaigs at your store. It's got to be good.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm 100% with you. I do I incorporate cost as a factor in the way I do reviews. Usually the range of cost. Do I think it's, something that the average person like myself would worth spending the money on? And yeah, I am too. I mean, there's stuff I won't I'll overspend sometimes on some things, but not others.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Laphroaig 10 cast strength to me is the best thing that they make with price considered. Yeah. It's without a doubt to me. I don't think there's anything that even comes. I think the only thing that I would say in their present lineup that comes close to the 10 cast strength is maybe the Lore, and that's pricier. That 10 cast strength is just great. That said, I've done an entire bottle of this Laphroaig 10 sherry already, and it's fun. It's good. I started liking it more as it went along. You will. You're going to buy it anyway, so you got to
know this. I am going to buy it. Absolutely.
There's no doubt. I mean, the minute I saw this came out, I was like, "What? Yeah. Finally, it's not just a cartridge. I can go get an age-stated Laphroaig, so it's fun."
Totally.
Yep. Yeah. So, did you have another whiskey that you wanted to chat about? A Scotch outside of the Tamdu?
I don't have another Scotch down here. I've got a couple of wild cards. One, just as we're kind of wrapping up, have you ever gone to a Dutch whiskey? It's a single malt, but it's Dutch. Millstone. Because I thought it's kind of bring something on here that's a little wild. This is actually we're a little bit sherry tonight. Just saying. This is also an Oloroso sherry finish. 46%. I think it's all natural, color and non-chill filtered. And it really, really surprised me as well. That is here, if you're looking for the bottle.
Millstone. And it's Dutch?
Yeah, Dutch.
Okay.
That is a bomb. Like, we talk sherry bombs and all that. This is one of the thickest sherry noses I've had this year.
Huh. And
then it rolls right from, well, when I say sherry noses, there's so many, we've been all over the sherry, right? From PX Oloroso, whatever. This one's jammy. This is cooked. This is thick. And then runs.
What's the name of that again?
For me.
What was the name of the release? It's Millstone.
Single malt Oloroso sherry. Yeah.
I just I'm curious if this is something that's around here in the U.S. I'm just taking a peek right now.
They put out Zuidam, Zuidam is the distiller. Millstone is sort of their branding. They put out some other good stuff that I've had before too, but this, without a doubt, surprised me. It has also that citrus. Actually, no, it's there. I'm trying to connect back to the Tamdu. But either way, it is. It's wild. It's worth hunting down. Yeah.
Really? What did a bottle of that cost you in Canada?
85 Canadian. So
that's
not bad. Yeah.
So that's actually quite good.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, Peter mentions their rye is good. They've got a rye 100. It's what is it? 100 proof, 100 months, 100% rye. I can't remember. There's a bunch of stuff, and it's got it's kind of got a bit of malt in there. It doesn't have malt in there. It's all rye, but what I mean, it's got a bit of funk.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a interesting rye. Not your just classic hot, spicy cinnamon red heart, super spicy rye. It's cool. Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, this is another one I've never heard of. So very cool.
Yeah, I don't drink enough world whiskeys, and by world whiskeys I mean like I drink in all the classic categories, right? Like your Irish, your all the American whiskey and bourbon and Scotch and Canadian. But when I think world whiskeys, I think like this, like Dutch or well, Japanese is more its own category, but in my mind, because I don't have enough of it, that's in that world group.
I agree with you. With you completely. It's funny that this is a great segue. So it just brought up while you're sipping that, I'll share my third whiskey, which is my wild card, which is also a world whiskey.
Okay.
And for folks who are subscribed to my channel, you're going to be very familiar because I've been harping on this whiskey since I opened it earlier this year. But happy to do it one more time. And this is the Paul John Christmas Edition 2020. So
cool.
Paul John is an Indian distillery. I'm sure you've probably heard of them before.
Yeah.
Now, they started in 2018 doing a Christmas edition release. It's an NAS release, kind of like a special batch. Here in the U.S. market, we started getting it in 2019. And in 2019, they did a PX cast. But this 2020 version, as you can see, there's very little left because I love it so much. This whiskey, so this is 46%, and let me just make sure I get it completely right. It is ex-bourbon, Oloroso, virgin oak, and a lightly peated malt. Oh. So you're looking at 3 maturations with a lightly peated version of their peated malt.
Nice.
It is phenomenal. It's non-chill filtered. Another thing, these retail around $70 or around $80 to $90. There will be a 2021, which I just cannot wait for. Right. This is, earlier this year I would have said this is my whiskey of the year.
Oh,
we'll see if it still holds up to that at the end of the year. But let me tell you, it's a bonanza of flavor. Wow. You get so much fresh fruit off the Oloroso, which is it's not dried fruit at all. It's very fresh. And then you get the spice of that virgin oak.
Yeah.
Little bit of the new make, that kind of classic Indian new make. If you've had an Amrut before, you kind of know what I'm saying. It's like sort of barley, like barley cereal grain, a little, almost like a hint of concrete, little minerality. Every time you go in here, you get a
say minerality. I haven't heard concrete before, but
yeah, like fresh concrete. I don't know. I know it sounds weird, but there's a little bit of that in here. Everything just plays off each other so well in this dram. This is definitely a 4-star whiskey for me for sure.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
fantastic stuff. I don't know how readily available these are, but I gotta say this is probably, and I've had a healthy amount of stuff from Paul John, which has been nice, but this is probably my favorite that I've had. And Richie Z is in the house saying hello. Great to see Richie. Starward. You got anything from Starward?
No, and I'm glad we said hi to Richie. He dropped in. That's awesome. And I want to connect back to Paul John in a moment, but I have been watching another guy, young guy. He always shoots with, kind of reminds me a bit of my background, but he's got like he dries his clothes back here. Boy, what's his name? Anyways, he's been hitting Starward, like all their different releases. And I'm like, I've got to get a bottle. Have to. Have you had any?
So it's funny you bring that up. I see them, some of their core range stuff. I've not bought any, but I do have something that I came across a while back. Let me see if I can find. Here it is. And I've yet to open, and it's, look at how dark this is.
Oh, nice.
So this is a Starward single cask release. It's 3 years old. It is, it's a single cask, 55.4%. It is all matured in red wine hogsheads. So 3 years, full red wine single cask maturation on this.
Huh.
I don't know why I haven't opened this yet, but I got to do it soon. I mean, look at how dark that is.
Yeah, no, that's
3 years. It looks like an Edgerdoor.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I got to do it. This is going to probably set the bar very high for Starward, but this is the. But I do see their core range stuff here in Chicago, like pretty regularly. The local shops seem to carry that stuff, which is cool.
That's good. Yeah. But we don't get that up here, but we do get Paul John, quite a bit of it, as someone commented on. But I haven't seen their unique releases. Like, I mean, we got the edited and the bold and Nirvana, and kind of their entrance range. I see that in a lot of stores, but I don't see, like that 2020. I don't remember seeing it ever. Yeah.
This one I found online. Yeah, the only ones that I see here in stores has been, as you mentioned, the Nirvana, the Brilliance, the Edited, which are curious names for a whiskey, but that aside. I also periodically will see some of the peated, like there's this one. This is another one that I run into somewhat regularly. The Bold, which is like the heavily peated one. This is like the Oloroso. It's just called Oloroso. This one's at 48%. It's a select cask, so I don't know if that means it's a single cask or not. But I've come across this one. I've not had the Edited or the Nirvana or the Brilliance, but I've had the Bold and these Christmas ones and the I have not had any of those like cast strength peated ones yet, which I love. But I quite like Paul John. Yeah,
me too. I have had the Edited. It's a light peated, like there's a little bit of peat in there, and it was great, and it's certainly affordable up here, and certainly would hit outside its price category. Like it's a decent dram.
Yeah. I saw earlier Kapil was in the house. He's over in Delhi, India, and if he's still here, say hi, Kapil. He and his friend Mahir, they've shared a bunch of stuff. They about the Paul John things that they run into there, which is really awesome. Skip the Nirvana and Edited, but Edited is very nice. Okay. Have you had? Okay, so we do get Amrut and Amrut and Paul John seem to be the two major Indian single malts that I find. But I also see another one from a distillery called Rampur. Do you see those at all in Canada? I've not had any of those, but
I had one. So yeah, I can't judge a distillery by one release. It showed up in Whiskey Advocates, a magazine I like to leaf through, and I don't know, maybe like back in 2017. I'm trying to remember. They had it like right up there in one of the top 5 whiskeys, Rampure. I can't remember what it was, and it showed up, and I bought it, and it was the most fruit forward, and I mean like it was weird fruit, star fruit, jackfruit, mango. Like it was so fruity. It just stood out as a unique taste experience, but I certainly haven't rebought it. It didn't resonate with what I'm looking for in a single malt, but it certainly had character. Like it was unique.
Yeah. I think character is a great word when it comes to talking about some of these Indian single malts, and that is again what I definitely would describe this as with the 3 different maturations. I mean, I've just been sipping it here, and it's like every time you go in, one of the barrels kind of pokes its head out and is a little bit more dominant on the flavor, but they all play out together really nice. You said jackfruit and stuff. There's a really nice kind of like tropical sort of mango quality to this. Just fresh barley. There's a little bit of that spice from the wood, the virgin oak, and then the fresh sherry. And it's got a nice medium body. It goes down kind of like a nice roller coaster of flavor, long finish. I love it. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, it's not that it's flavored in a Christmas spicy way per se. Like, it's August here in Chicago, and I could easily drink this on the porch at night.
That's right. Oh, that sounds wonderful. I love whiskeys that take me on a ride like that. That's just beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's definitely doing it. So curious, is there anything, John, that you're looking forward to still this year? Maybe some things that are going to be released in 2021 that are on your radar? Are you one of the kind of folks that I pick up every Ardbeg this or every Glenallachie that or anything like that? Is there anything that you're looking forward to still buying this year?
Actually before the last few months I would have said, really that's not my style, because I started the channel to try to find great whiskey that basically everybody can afford. So that means you're not looking for that next release or that special release or that it really, even though those come and go, it means that I'm instead really hunting bargains. And I definitely am a bit of a bargain hunter. Or not a bit, I really am. However, I've recently connected with some wonderful people that are very local that are trying to bring in new whiskeys. And so once you get to know people that are, bringing in the new whiskey, then you get kind of excited by the whiskey they're bringing in as well. And Taconic, I think they're out of New York. Have you heard of that distillery? They're
What's
just
the name?
showed up. What's that?
What was the name?
I think it's Taconic. I could probably look it up if I'm getting it wrong.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't have a bottle, but they just released kind of 5 whiskeys from them into our market, and I am very much looking forward to trying that whole range. But their cask strength, they've got a rye, they've got a whole variety, and those guys are pretty excited, which means I'm pretty excited. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that is one that I don't think I've come across. There is one. Speaking of New York whiskeys, I'd be curious. Have you ever seen a bourbon from bottled by a company called Widow Jane?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
I had a really nice 12-year-old, so here in the U.S., a lot of liquor stores do barrel picks and then bottle them with a special, this barrel was selected by the people at this store. And it's a really great way to get your hands on, higher quality versions of whiskeys. For the most part, they're hit and miss. But I think that, for example, Knob Creek has a very, very prolific barrel pick selection process here in the U.S.
Cool.
And what happens is right now, you go to your store, you'll find the Knob Creek 9-year-old single barrel, 60% ABV. So the store picks here in the U.S., so many places you'll find 13-year, 14-year. I even have some 15-year Knob Creek single barrel picks that were like $50. So like they're an example. Elijah Craig has some with their small batch. There's a lot of bourbons that do that. And so Widow Jane, which I believe is still sourcing their stuff, they are from New York and New York City. And they've been bottling a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of like store picks around their stuff too. So I'd be curious. I would actually say it's worth probably giving a try. If you ever get the opportunity. The one that I had was good. I know that some of their stuff is hit and miss, but it depends on what you find in the market, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I really appreciated. Actually, one person did send me a bottle, so I can't say what I was about to say, but I have appreciated that a number of people have been sending me little samples because they really are nice try before you buy, right? Because you kind of get a sense of what you're getting into. It's a really lovely way if you can do it. Get a sample or meet up with friends, you all bring a bottle kind of thing, and you sample around. It gives you a good exposure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That Knob Creek single barrel, I grabbed the last one from a store here. The same thing. It was a 14-year-old, but it was priced at the same, well, maybe it was $5 more as the regular.
$5 more for a bourbon. I think it's like it has its sweet spot. I personally, once you get past that 15 years, I tend to find most of them get kind of overly oaky, but that is, 14 for $5 more. Are you kidding?
I was like, a friend, I don't see him on here. He was going to drop in, Chris. He texted me and said, look, there's one left, go. So I called him right away. They put it away and I drove down and picked it up. It was amazing. So, and I think we're probably wrapping up, but in case we were going to run out of stuff to talk about, I was going to talk like you're doing now about store picks. Now they can obviously, they follow someone's taste profile. So, if you know the store or the person picking, we generally, it's amazing that we hit Tamdu at the same time. That's awesome. But I'm willing to bet that I have whiskeys I like that you wouldn't, and you have whiskeys you like that I wouldn't, right? Just because,
I'm sure it's true. True.
And where I was going with this is a pretty generic bottle. It's Buffalo Trace, right? It's just Buffalo Trace, except this guy on here in my area, Ryan Egan, he probably the biggest liquor store group in Alberta is Wine and Beyond, and he has the dream job of picking all of their barrel proof and unique stuff, right? That's all. I don't know what else he does, but I know he does that. And I've noticed in the last few years that this fellow, Ryan Engen, likes a little oakier or a little oak spice in his single barrels. And so Buffalo Trace, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's classic bourbon, good price. I have no problem with Buffalo Trace. I'm going to agree.
I'm listening. I'm actually grabbing one because
it's okay. It's all good. All I'm going with this is that classic, a little bit sweeter, a little easier drinking, except because he likes a little more oak or a little more spice. When they gave him the barrels to choose, he gravitated toward one that's got a little more kick, a little more, and I love it because it gives me the classic Buffalo Trace, but just a little more spice, a little more hint. It's really, really good. Yeah.
That's awesome to know. I agree with you on regular good old Buffalo Trace. And for the most part, it's not a whiskey I usually have around because, to be completely honest, it's like in the price point. So this is about a Buffalo Trace, about a $25 bottle in the U.S. But, my go-to on that lesser side is like Evan Williams Bottled in Bond or, something like that. But I like Buffalo Trace, however. So since I've moved to Chicago, Chicago has a very well-known liquor chain that just exists within the city called Binny's. And Binny's is prolific with the store picks. And I just happened to cross for $27 a Binny's store pick of what? Buffalo Trace. And my Binny's store pick situation is getting kind of little crazy over here because every time I walk in, I'm like, oh, I got to grab that. Because they always got something different. But I'll tell you what, we can, I still got about 15 minutes. If you want, I can join you for a little bit of this to wrap it up. And chat a little Buffalo Trace. You can't go wrong. I'm glad you guys can get your hands on this up in Canada. I wasn't so sure if it was a easily gotten whiskey or not.
Yeah, and as you showed your emblem, it's the same kind of thing, right? That's our store pick. Can't get the focus trap on it, but yeah, exactly, yeah. But what I like about it too, I don't want to gush on it. It's solid. I like it, but it's still, it's not. I don't think it's going to change too many hearts and minds. But I like it definitely more than the regular Buffalo Trace. And again, it was only maybe it was $10 more, but it's worth it. Like in my mind, like a heartbeat, it was worth it, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's funny because when I found this, they had the signs up that limit 1 per customer because they know. I mean, when Binny's drops store picks. So another thing that I just got to share this with you. Another thing that Binny's just did store picks of is the classic old Sazerac rye. These are all single barrels that Binny's just did store picks of the first time in 6 years. And now, you see prices of this stuff in some places. It's crazy. These were $27 a piece. So I have 5 of them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like, yeah, give me every one of them. Because they had like 9 different barrels that they did. I bought 5. I mean, that's, sometimes you run into these shops, I mean, just like you did, where it's like, Christ, you get your hands on a store pick, usually it's going to have more character. Whether you like it more or not is what you learn. But
yeah, I when I get asked a bit about store picks or independent bottlers or whatnot, I don't recommend them out of the gate to people kind of early in their whiskey journey. I think there's so much excellent whiskey that's fairly reliable. I can pick a bottle, and I know it's gonna taste like this. But I think where you and I are, and probably everybody in the chat here, absolutely everybody, I say go for it. Like, take a risk on that independent bottle. Go for a store pick, right? Because it's going to give you something to talk about, even if it's like, ooh, I really didn't like the soap notes in that one or whatever, but at least it's going to give you something to go.
100%, man. 100%. I agree. And like, it's like, you're lucky. It's a lucky thing. It's one thing I am more of a Scotch guy than a I see Whiskey Ace is in the house from Pittsburgh. Nice to see you, Ace. Loch Ness is here too. If I didn't shout out you before, man, great to have you. I am more of a Scotch guy, but when you're in the U.S., and I'm sure this is the same thing in Canada, it's like, the prices are right, and there's those staple whiskeys you just want to have around. And yeah, I was really happy with this Buffalo Trace. This one is just so much creamier and richer than what I would say an average bottle of Buffalo Traces, which I still think is solid, but I wish I could have got 6 of these because I would sit on them. This would be the only thing. This would be the bourbon of choice for getting a palate start, getting a flight started. So,
yeah.
Well, definitely good. So just to recap, John and I have went through a couple drams tonight. Hope folks found it interesting. I had a couple recommendations. Some stuff that I've had for the first time this year was Rabbit Hole Derringer, which is a PX finished bourbon, and Paul John Christmas Edition 2020. And then John and I, through some type of synergy, it was definitely not planned ahead of time, our Scotch pick was both of us picked the Tamdu cast strength or batch strength number 5 as the Scotch that we was blown away by this year. You had the Still Austin bourbon, so something to keep an eye out for y'all. Definitely an interesting one. And then Millstone, which is a Dutch sherried bourbon, Dutch sherried whiskey is kind of the wild
single
card.
malt. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, single malt. Yeah. There you go. That's awesome. And this is a lot of fun, bud, and we should do this again sometime.
We totally should. Thanks again so much for hosting, and it was such a great crowd we had. Actually, I do miss. I wish I could catch more of what they said. I'll probably read it later.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We appreciate everybody hanging out, and great to see the Canadian crew coming in. One more time, if you haven't yet, check out the chat. This is a link to John the Whiskey Neighbor's YouTube channel, do give him a sub. He's doing great reviews. You put it like what, a review up every week or so?
Yeah. Yeah, I try to do a review. I've kind of settled into a Saturday review and then a Sunday. I've had so many generous people. Many of them are in the chat sending me little samples. I do a sample Sunday as well. So I kind of do two things. And you do a review and then a live on Tuesday? Is that it? Right. Or how does it go?
Yep. My reviews drop every Friday. I'll have another one tomorrow. And then every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, I do a live happy hour. And then 2 more hours after that with my friend Jason, with Telex, the Whiskey Tech, where we will talk about, a distillery and taste 2 samples of it. So if you've not yet subscribed, would love your support on that. I'm inching towards that 1,000 subscriber mark, so would appreciate it. And until next time, John, to your health, stay well, man. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and we will catch up again sometime soon.
Thanks so much again, my friend. Take care.
Cheers.